one business that I'm working with right now is a fractional sales individual. The first thing that they did was they sent me all their marketing material that they send out to their clients.
Perfect.
Then I sat down with them and I said, okay, great. Now I have all of this. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So we went through a series of questions. We went through, some product information. I didn't become an expert on their product. I simply became very clear on what they solve for the individuals.
Yes.
And that was very simple for me to then write a script and then start calling into their, the companies that they market to in that industry. If it wasn't, if I came across a company that wouldn't get any value from their product, I'm not going to call them.
Well, and what you're talking about speaks to the fact that people buy outcomes, not processes. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be the expert on how they do what they do. You have to be able, in your role, to talk about the outcome somebody gets by working with your client, which is the same as, whether if you want to hire a fractional salesperson, you need to be able to do this. And if you aren't there yet, this is how you make sales for yourself, is being able to really dial in on the outcome that you provide. Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast, where I'm excited for today's guest. First, because she's got like a really cool name, Leighann Lovely, which is awesome. Second, because we've been talking about not showering. How do you handle a podcast with a lot that's very sweary? All sorts of things. And she loves sales. So, this conversation is all right up in my alley. So before we get way into it, why don't you give everybody a little more formal introduction into who you are and what you do when we're being prim and proper and professional.
Prim and proper and professional. I don't know that I know how to do that, but hey, Erin, it's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I am Leighann Lovely. Recently joining the world of entrepreneurship, was kind of shoved into it, which is very exciting. I'm excited to kind of explore how to run my own business, and so. New to that, it is Love Your Sales in partnership with RIM. My sole thing is doing fractional sales for entrepreneurs that are working on getting started, as well as being able to recruit for sales individuals or for companies. I've always seen that there's a kind of a disconnect between, or I shouldn't say disconnect, more of an internal.
It's a disappointment. It's not a disconnect. They're very aware of it. It's a massive disappointment for many, many small business owners and entrepreneurs who create a business to do the thing. And then they wake up one day and go, uh-oh, I'm a salesperson.
Yep.
How did that happen? They forget. I don't know how many people just thought they were going to build a business and people would just show up and say, here, take my money.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And that is the premise behind, one day I was at a meeting and I said, would people buy this service? And I had 4 hands go up and they're like, wait,
please help me.
You're telling me that you would go sell my product for me and bring me business? And I went, oh, so this actually could be a business model.
There's a problem in the market that I can solve. Wait a minute.
Right. Right.
So I do want to talk a little bit about this whole idea of an entrepreneur is also a salesperson, because my definition of a business owner, your number one job is to get clients. Mm-hmm. Your number one job as a business owner is to get clients. That's through marketing and sales that work together. And because if you don't get to do what the business does for a living, the business ceases to exist, right?
Right.
But I also, and I can't wait to hear your take on this, I also feel that sales in particular is one of the things it's hard to have people do for you if you can't actually do it for yourself. And yet, I love this idea that you're a fractional salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So marry those things for me.
So let me make sure I'm understanding. So it would be hard to have somebody come in and do it for you if you can't do it for yourself.
Or if you just really don't know the first thing about it.
Well, and I guess there's twofold on that. If you don't know anything about it, but you understand your product extremely well, having somebody come in and sit with you, as a seasoned salesperson like myself, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask a series of questions about that product. I don't have to be an expert on your product. All I need to know is, and if you have a business, you should understand very, very, very specifically, what problem are you solving for your clients?
And that right there is probably the absolute key. I work with a lot of people who in the beginning don't actually know what, it sounds bad when I say this, but they don't know what they do. And they don't know how to talk. Maybe they know what they do, but they don't really know how to talk about it in a way that draws people to them.
Mm-hmm. And that comes down to, are you working with somebody, a coach on just that piece? I mean, before you take the leap, that's an important aspect of just being able to do your business. I mean,
it sounds so like you and I are sitting here in complete shock that that's a thing, but I will tell you, it's a pervasive problem. Either they don't really know what they do or how to package it, or they're not packaging it in a way, and this is how I describe it. How do you show up as a thought leader instead of a vendor that adds value to your prospect so that they turn into a client? That's what makes sales easy. And truthfully, I don't know if you know this, because I don't think you've heard this story, but my current business, Conquer Your Business, right? I do business and branding strategy. The first, where it started was conquer the conversation because of my communication background and messaging. And what I found was when I went to do messaging for my clients, they didn't have any of the other pieces together that would allow me to do that good job for them. And so I had to back up a step, right? So I think now that you're saying it that way, I absolutely agree with you. If they have their ducks in a row, your job for them it's possible. Now it's possible.
Correct. For instance, one business that I'm working with right now is a fractional sales individual. The first thing that they did was they sent me all their marketing material that they send out to their clients. Then I sat down with them and I said, okay, great. Now I have all of this. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So we went through a series of questions. We went through, some product information. I didn't become an expert on their product. I simply became very clear on what they solve for the individuals.
Yes.
And that was very simple for me to then write a script and then start calling into their, the companies that they market to in that industry. If it wasn't, if I came across a company that wouldn't get any value from their product, I'm not going to call them.
Well, and what you're talking about speaks to the fact that people buy outcomes, not processes. You don't have to be the expert on how they do what they do. You have to be able in your role to talk about the outcome somebody gets by working with your client, which is the same as, whether if you want to hire a fractional salesperson, you need to be able to do this. And if you aren't there yet, this is how you make sales for yourself, is being able to really dial in on the outcome that you provide.
Correct. And the other thing too is that in the current role, I'm not here to close the business. I'm here to introduce them, for the most part, to here's somebody who wants to buy from you. Introduce them.
So
and
it's
then they
lead
say
generation, but warm lead generation, not just lists of.
No, I actually create the conversation, walk them basically into the store and say, this is the product they're interested in, write up the order for them so they understand what they're going to pay because they're going to buy from you.
Well, and this is what I love that you've done. And too many people kind of miss the mark on this. Businesses exist to solve problems, period, hard stop. businesses exist to solve problems. You saw a problem you could solve, as opposed to, I have an idea of what I want to do, so I'm going to create my business in a bubble and then see if anyone's interested in it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, honestly, it kind of fell on me. It wasn't like one day I had this light bulb go off and went, oh, I'm going to do this. My background is human resources. I come from human resources. I have a podcast all about, HR, and you start to see, when you're working with individuals, you start to see these gaps. You start to see the disconnect, and there's always a disconnect between sales and production, and then the communication between them, and then you start to see the internal battle from the entrepreneur side of that. We had just said this. You excuse me, you had just mentioned this. You don't become a business owner typically to be a salesperson. But the only way to be a business owner, a small entrepreneur, is to be the salesperson.
Right.
So it is a constant, right?
A lot of people, like I said, people wake up very disappointed.
Right. And I'm right now, my husband and I he's been talking about opening up his own business, and he says, yeah, but I can't do sales. And I said, honey, then you can't have a business.
Right. Well, and so that's a really good point, because this is something I say all the time. It's your business, not your mother. You don't need closure. You just need it to work. Right. Right. You don't have, take action, action, action. There is such a business out there of feeling good about your business and living your passion and all that stuff. And that's great. I want you to be happy. Don't get me wrong. Puppies and rainbows and unicorns for everybody. But if you want to be in business, you have to take action. And a lot of times you have to take action you don't like.
Right.
And you can either figure out how to do it, or you can hire someone to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Either way's fine.
Right. And I remember my dad saying to me at a young age, you don't have to be an expert at everything, but you have to be smart enough to realize what you are not an expert at, and then go hire the person to do it for you.
I just had this conversation with someone we both know. I'll name drop because she's awesome and we love her, Susie Moon. And yeah. She, she's always on LinkedIn. She's a freaking amazing human being. So she had done a little video about being out of town and having a hard time letting go and delegating. And I have a very different opinion about that. And I think it's because I come out of corporate, and this is my response to the business owners who think they have to do everything themselves. When I was in corporate, my fancy title was Senior Vice President of Business Development. I created new relationships and regional and national relationships for our company. Great. Yay me. If I would have walked into the IT department and started futzing with the networks, I would have been chased out with torches and pitchforks. If I would have walked into the finance office and said, here, let me log into the system and start paying the bills, she would have killed me and probably got me arrested. Mm-hmm. Why do we do this as small business owners? And I understand that, like, some of it's time and money, but if you suck at something, hire someone else to do it.
Correct. Right. I just the other day, my business is still in its infancy. I've got, one core client. I've got another couple of people reaching out to me that I've got things, in the hopper it's starting to go. Right. So I went and purchased my domain for my website, and I opened up Squarespace, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I literally went, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't want to, I can't do
reaction.
This.
I don't want to do this.
Right.
No business touching this.
I know that I could, but it would take me weeks, because every time I did it, it would be painful. And I am not a marketing person. I hate creating content. I am a hardcore pick up the phone, talk to people salesperson. Like, when I have to send out emails, I compose one email. Hey, you want to talk to me? Let's schedule a time to talk.
That's my approach to sales. Right. Hey, catch me up. My favorite email to send to people is, catch me up. Why don't I know what you're doing? That's all I say.
Right. And mine are very short and to the point. Hey, I'd really love to talk to you about this. I think I might be able to solve this problem, or whatever it might be. am not a content creator. I'm not a marketer. I know that I have now. The problem is I need to come up with the money to hire the person to create my, and then somebody brilliant said to me, why do you need a website right now? You have clients.
You don't need a website right now. My favorite website hack, I'll give you my favorite website hack for people who are just starting, or it works well for rebranding. Take your URL, put up one page that says under construction, find me on LinkedIn.
See?
And then
right
your link to your
boom,
LinkedIn.
boom. That's what I'm going to do.
That's it. Like, that's it. That way they know you're a real live boy if they look up your domain. Under construction is a completely acceptable status.
Right. And it'll be under construction until all of a sudden
until it doesn't
okay.
need to be under construction. Right. Under until construction, find me on LinkedIn, put up your LinkedIn profile, do a good job at it. You're fine.
Right. And I'm fine with, my LinkedIn is great. I've got enough information out there to get people to know who I am, what I'm about, all of that stuff. Right. But I'm fully aware. I'm hyper aware of what I am not good at. And I've got people who are willing to say, Leighann, you suck at that. And I'm very good at saying, yep.
I have a whole team of people who are willing to tell me to stop touching things. But is it so? And here's one of the things that I love about you. So many entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning. And so the fact that you're over this already is just going to serve you so well. They're scared to admit they don't know something. They're scared to admit they're not perfect and good at everything. And that is the number one thing that stops them from moving forward. Or it makes them take on clients they never should have said yes to. Like all sorts of bad decisions come from the feeling you have to be perfect. You have to know everything. You have to be able to do everything. My life improves every time I stop trying to do something that I either don't like or am not good at.
I think part of that is maybe one, I came from a business family. Like we sat around the dinner table, every night growing up, hearing about sales. I mean, my dad managed an office of 40, 60, up to 60, sales individuals at any given time. His wife was, like multiple times ranked the number one salesperson. And so I grew up in that type of environment. Second, I grew up knowing that I was not perfect. I have bipolar disorder. I got over it really quick that, hey, there's shit that I can't do by myself.
There's gonna be days. There's gonna be days telling you now.
Right. So, I'm perfectly fine with, I had to be perfectly fine with saying, I can't do this. I need to ask for help. Mm-hmm. That became part of my identity.
For you, it's survival. You learned it to survive, but it also happens to be just a really handy trait.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and I'm there. I don't believe that there's any shame in that. And I've preached this.
Chemical.
Right. But just in life in general. And people are like, well, I have to be able to do this. I'm like, why? Why do you have to be the one to do it? Now, don't get me wrong. My husband will tell me that there are other areas that I'm an absolute control freak and that I can't let things go. And that my brain just is obsessive compulsive when it comes, he'll call me and be like, that this is broken. And I'll come home and I forget that I'm supposed to come home and spend time with my family. And then I become hyper obsessed on this stupid fan that's broken in the house that could wait, a week to be fixed, but totally irrelevant stuff that I'm like, get hyper focused and there goes mom, just, doing some random weird.
Doing the mom thing. doing, there she goes again, doing the thing.
Right. She decided to paint the walls and, now all of a sudden she's been painting for 4 hours today. I don't know why. So neither do she. Neither do I. Right. Right.
I have a good friend who's bipolar, so this is just how we handle this.
Right. So trust me, I do realize that I have kind of an obsessive compulsive personality at times. I also know that I am a workaholic. I am trying to get into recovery of that.
Love what you're learning here and interested in more? check out conqueryourbusiness.com to get immediate access to all sorts of additional resources and stay updated on our upcoming training events. So, okay, random question for you. Being newer, the way that I describe entrepreneurship is it's like it's like falling off a cliff. You might have gotten pushed or you might have jumped, but either way, you are now free falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
So my first meltdown was when the printer didn't work and I realized I had nobody to call.
Did the printer survive?
Yeah, I just bought a different one. I couldn't figure out how to fix that one. So I bought a new one and followed, like I could follow as long as we started from ground zero, but I couldn't fix something that was messed up. So that was my solution.
First off, I hate printers. And there's been multiple times where I had to say to my husband, if that thing is not fixed by the time I come home, it's going to end up in the driveway and I'm going to run it over.
Yes.
I don't know what it is with printers.
No, I have the same. I'm not good with but what has been the biggest surprise?
The stress level that sneaks up on you, because for the first time you realize that you're not going to get a paycheck if you don't get the work done. So
some people find that driving and some people find that paralyzing.
I find that I am so much more driven than I have ever been in my life. But there are times that, and I've always said, like, when I get really driven, I get really hyper focused. But for the first time, I'm like, oh my God, I have to get this done, and I have to get this done, and I have to get this done.
It gets that manic feeling sometimes.
Yes, which is why I'm so grateful for some of the groups that I'm part, like the networking groups that I'm part of, because there's masterminds in there. And I'll bring that, like, oh, I've got this. And that's when the person said to me, like, why do you need a website? And I went, let me just cross that off my list. And
and our brains get stuck on something.
Correct. And I wasn't expecting that, because I'm such an organized person. I mean, my one girlfriend's like, she's an accountant. And I said, will you be my accountant? And she's like, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't I be?
My accountant loves me. We update my books every week. Like my taxes took a minute and a half.
Right. And she goes, I would love to take you on as a client, because you are ridiculously organized. You track everything. I have all year round for just my personal taxes. Like, I have a spreadsheet. Like, but for the first time, I'm finding that, like, I forgot to pay my nanny. And I said to my nanny, I'm like, you have to tell me if you don't
I didn't pay.
I'm falling apart here.
The other one, when I first left corporate, my first business was a franchise. And so it's been quite some time. And under too much information, I always took my birth control pill every morning when I brushed my teeth. I wasn't one of those some people, if you don't take it at the exact moment every day, they have problems with it. I never had that problem. As long as I took it when I brushed my teeth, roughly every 24 hours, that morning brushing, I was fine. And every now and then you'd have a vacation day or whatever, and you go and you realized you missed one.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started my business, more than once, I did this twice in 30 days. I went to take my pill, and they come in a little packs. They say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was 2 days ahead.
Well,
I didn't
overly protective, or really want to make sure.
Right? I was so spaced out and overwhelmed that I didn't forget one. I managed to take two.
Mm-hmm. Right. I knew it was going to be stressful, but I actually was so my wrist. So this morning I woke up and my wrist felt like I had broken it in the night,
like gripping
because
pens.
I must have been like curled up, like all stressed. And my chiropractor, she's like, wow, your upper back is, and I didn't start seeing her for my upper back, by the way. I started seeing her for my hips, but she says, your upper back is like really tense. And I'm like, yeah, I have to remind myself when I'm working to stop putting my shoulder, right. I have to remind, because I'm trying to work really fast because, when you're working on especially on a project, like I was paid a one lump sum for this project. And when I'm done with it, I can move on to the next project. Well, and this is a mistake. I'm sure a lot of people, when they first start, if you don't charge them enough and the project goes longer than anticipated, well, you're really going to want to get that project.
Yeah, you won't make that mistake again.
No, I will not.
Right. You don't make that mistake more than
Right.
once.
So I'm really working like 3 times harder to get this project. And that's something else that you don't realize is that, you work for corporate, and no matter what I did, and I was always a go-getter. I was always somebody who worked really hard, did very well in my sales roles. I, never had complaints, always met my quota, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, but you always at the end of, if you were paid weekly or paid at the end, you always had that salary that you knew you were going to get.
Well, and I think it's one step further the way that I describe it, because the money, yes, absolutely. But also for someone who is successful at their corporate job, for people who are used to accolades, attaboys, raises that because you did well, bonuses, all of the things, it's gone. That external validation is gone. And even if you have a supportive family, they sometimes look at you like you're nuts. And they're very happy and they're very proud of you. They're just also a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
So what we learn, it starts to mess with our self-identity.
Mm-hmm.
And it can do a number on you.
And, I've never been one of those people that needed a whole ton of great job, that a boy, really appreciate
But
you.
then all of a sudden, if it isn't there, you're like, am I doing okay?
Yes, absolutely. But I'm kind of one of those, I guess, self-soothers in a way. Mm-hmm. Like I know where I need to be. I know where I know how to measure up. And I also have a network of people that provide, I guess, that validation of you're doing a great job. I have referrals that still continue to come in. And I think for me, that is the validation. People still are coming to me and asking me like, oh, are you still doing this? I'd love to work with you. And that right there, that if somebody is reaching out to me saying, I want to work with you, I think that's more of a validation than a boss coming to me saying, hey, you're doing a really great job.
Well, and the other thing that I found with my networks of people is that was my happy bonus of entrepreneur world, is the connections. Corporate is inherently competitive. Mm-hmm. Because, and I'm great with competition. That's fine. I love it.
Right.
I'm very competitive with myself. But it's hard to build a team when there's 7 people on that team and only one place for a promotion. So everybody's supposed to work together, knowing that only one person, there's a little weirdness around that. And you just don't have that in the entrepreneur world when you put yourselves in the right room. People are much more likely to just help each other. And that to me was one of the biggest happy surprises. Mm-hmm. Was the amazing people I met networking.
Yeah. I would not be where I am today had it not been for, a number of key networking groups that I am part of today. And I just from being able to collaborate and hear their success stories and watch some of them, some of these other individuals grow, really just standing on the sideline and watching those individuals grow and be successful.
Oh yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Gave me the confidence. Yeah. Even knowing the numbers of new businesses that start and fail, I didn't have fear when it came to the path that I'm on. I've not experienced fear thus far. And maybe that's because there's, I'm not one of those typical businesses that's starting where I had to go to the bank and say, hey, I need X amount to start. There'd be a lot more fear around that if I'm possibly going to lose my house if I don't succeed. Right. But just watching others do the thing they said they were going to do and then be wildly successful at it and continue to watch them go up and then have the honor of knowing those people. And not just know them, but know them as friends.
Yeah.
And know that I can call them and say, hey, I need help or I need advice. And having them go, yeah, whatever you need.
So I know it's still newer for you, but it's not brand new. What do you wish you would have done differently so far?
I'm not 100% sure. In retrospect, I think I would have put a little bit more thought into my LLC because now I have to change the name of it because it doesn't line up.
DBA.
I know. Oh, what a pain in the butt.
I know. I tell a lot of people, start with your name. No one can sue you over it. You can't get a cease and desist letter about your name, right? Just start with your name and just don't worry. So many people let the name of their business stop them from moving forward. They literally were like, I can't do anything until I have a name. I didn't have a name for 2 years. It was just Erin Marcus.
Right. And I kept using that as an excuse of like, well, how am I gonna, market myself if I don't know how to name myself? And then it was just one day on an idea slam, there was a list of names. There was 3 of them. And in 20 minutes, I texted out to my family. I said, vote. My family voted on it. I came back to the group. I said, this is what they voted. What are your votes? Everybody raised their hand. Within an hour, I bought the domain and I went, this is the name of my business. One of my really close friends does graphic design and everything else. She created a logo for me within a day. And then it was done. And I'm like, you know what? This is the name. I really don't. Again, I'm not a marketer. I honestly, you could call me frickin' I don't know, the sales girl. I don't care, but it's other people do, which means that it's got to be something that people are going to go, okay, I know what she does.
I
and
know
I know
what
who
she does,
is.
or I get the feel, I get the vibe, it doesn't have to, It doesn't have to be 100%. I know what she does. If you look at Nike, what the heck does it, but it has to have a feel to it. It has to have a
right. As far as I'm concerned, it's not that big of a deal to me, but it is when it comes to what does the world see me as, right?
It is helpful. And one of the things that I notice, and this is what I do for clients, and it's totally normal. Like, you build your business one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And especially in the beginning, you're changing so quickly that each step almost has nothing to do with the previous steps. Mm-hmm. And at the end of X amount of time, when you get to a certain threshold and you go to scale, you now look at your patchwork business and go, wait a minute, this has to be cohesive. And so, coming from my perspective, as I see everything that you're doing, there's a balance of, yes, things need to be cohesive in order to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. But until you get there, just go do the thing. Like, don't let it stop you. And that's what I think you're doing so well, is you're not letting any of these bits and pieces stop you from moving forward, because they don't matter until you get to a certain point.
Right. And the only way, the only way that I can start framing all of this and putting it together is to have a little bit of extra money in the bank so that I can hire somebody to offload some of this busy work. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to continue, because my end view of what this business is going to look like is not what it is today. But in order to get to that end point, I have to have a little bit of money.
Well, and you cannot think your way out of these problems. Nobody can. You can only act your way to the next level. Mm-hmm. You can't think your way there. You have to go and do it. The information you'll get, I mean, it's a twofold solution. One, you'll get clients, which means you'll get money. And 2, you'll get the experience, which means you'll have better ideas.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I swear, every time I'm sitting alone somewhere where I have peace and quiet, my 5-year-old isn't screaming at me and my dog isn't whining, I all of a sudden go, wow, that could be a really great thing to fold in. Someday we could do this and I could do this. And I'm like, wait, how would I execute that? Well, maybe I'd have to hire somebody. And oh my God, my brain is going a million miles a minute. I should write this down. Wait, I'm going to get a voice recorder for my phone. Oh my God, wait, I should do.
I call that. So my solution to not letting that problem derail me, because those aren't bad timing, but it could mess you up like squirrel, right? So I have a whole list called ideas on hold, because I have to write that down. Otherwise it keeps spinning in my head.
Oh, because the best ideas come to me while I'm in the car.
So lucky you, because mine come in the shower, which means I can't write them down or record them. And yes, I do now have a waterproof pad of paper in there, but I also can no longer see. So I don't wear my glasses in the shower. So I do have a waterproof paper that has a nice affirmation on it in big block letters, but I can't see to take notes.
You can buy, and I know this because I have a 5-year-old, you can buy those crayons that actually write on the shower wall.
Oh, now that would be fun.
Yes. My husband and I stole them, and we used to leave like stupid messages to each other.
Go get milk.
like, stop leaving your hair in the sink.
This is how you can tell how long you've been married. What are the messages that you get left on the shower?
Right.
It used to be hearts in the steam, right. And now it's like, what the hell, people?
We've been together 12 years. It's no longer, can't wait for you to get home.
Right now and while you're on your way, stop and get this, and this. Totally.
Yes. Totally. Oh God. Yes. But I have now a little recording mechanism on my phone, so that when I'm in my car, I just beep, and then I start talking. And usually when I listen to it back, I'm like, what the hell was I talking about?
Don't do that. Delete. But it really is, sometimes it's divine inspiration, right? Sometimes it's a totally inspired idea. And unfortunately, most of the time, it's your subconscious trying to find a way to keep you from moving forward. And it's very good at it.
Maybe I'll keep all those recordings one day and just throw them in a book and be like, the crazy mind of Miss Lovely.
It's perfect.
Oh,
all right. So if people want to continue this conversation with you, and I highly recommend they do, and find out what it is, because I really do think there's some really needed work that you're doing with being that fractional salesperson, in addition to having that partner that helps you ultimately recruit for a salesperson for them. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Definitely.
Because we know you don't have a website.
Yes. No, that'll be under construction now. That'll be under construction for a while. But I'm on LinkedIn. You can definitely find me there. I also have a podcast, Let's Talk HR, Humanizing the Conversation. But the best way to really reach out is LinkedIn. But email. You know what? I have like 10 emails. Just look for me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, one singular call to action. Absolutely perfect. We will make sure we have that link in the show notes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I love your take on it. I love your energy. I can't wait to see what's next for you.
It's been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for having me.